Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Phry podcast. I'm your dad, host Bobby.
And I'm Oliver.
And today we are bringing you our first interview episode of season 2. And our guest today is the one, the only, Ryan Storm. Now, you probably already know Ryan. Thank you for the applause. You probably already know Ryan. He is a co-host of 3 different podcasts. He is just a wonder kid of all things jam bands. He's a great musician. He's a music journalist, a fanbase promoter, a podcast host from Toronto.
A Phish fan.
He is a Phish fan for sure. So, helming a trio of podcasts on the Osiris network, he focuses on in-depth analysis of his 3 favorite bands, Phish, Goose, and Snarky Puppy. And I love all of them through his unique angles, which is cool. Ryan is also an avid writer, frequently contributing to JamBase and other publications as he continues to pursue his career as a full-time music journalist. Now, I love that bio, but getting to talk to Ryan was super cool. And it was awesome that he took time out of his schedule because he's busy. He's traveling a lot.
Yeah.
Going to see lots of
Madison Square Garden.
He did go to Madison Square Garden. And
right before that.
It was great to be able to talk to him and just kind of hear his thoughts on Phish and on music and stuff. What was your favorite part? No spoilers. What was your favorite part?
Getting to hear about his first Phish show.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to let y'all get into it. And
go listen to it and come surrender to the flow with us.
All right. Well, welcome Ryan Storm to the Phry podcast. Today is going to be fun. Don't you think so, Oliver?
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't we start out? And Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of Phish. Who you are, what you do, what you enjoy.
Well, first I'd like to say just thank you guys so much for having me today. I'm honored to be your first guest here on Phry podcast. So thank you so much. And myself outside of Phish, there's not much. It's been a huge part of my life, ever since I got into them when I was, not much older than you, Oliver. And that this is what I do full time now. I'm a music journalist. I host 3 podcasts. I write about Phish and other bands, all sorts of stuff like that. So, but other than that, I like to read a lot. I actually, when I was 8 years old, I started a food blog. Which is, my first foray into journalism of some kind, and where I, learned how to write about stuff. And I did that for 10 years, which was crazy. So, I love to see, Oliver, like you at that age, doing a podcast and getting into stuff like this. 'Cause, it's awesome. It's really cool.
It's been a real fun experience. I have to know, is it food blog where you're creating the recipes or you're reviewing other people's recipes?
I was reviewing restaurants and stuff like that, around Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, because of all that, how did you get into music? Is your family musical?
Yes. So my dad, started seeing the Grateful Dead in 1990, Phish in 1992, and so I grew up on this kind of stuff. At age 6, going on the bus to day camp in the summer. I was requesting I brought the Europe 72 Grateful Dead box set with me. And I was like, can we play this China Cat Sunflower? At such a young age. And I was, really into classic rock and the Beatles and stuff. And Phish, had been played around the house a bit, mostly the studio stuff. My dad saw them a few times in the 90s and, then not again, not very much. And so wasn't as into them as some other bands. And then in 2009, when they came back from the breakup, he saw them near Buffalo, and kind of fell back in love with them a little bit, and then went to their festival Super Bowl in 2011, and then that was the big moment for him when he was like, okay, Phish is the best. Why haven't I been going to shows, whatever? And then he put those shows on my iPod, and I distinctly remember listening to the Super Bowl Reba from 7/3/11, and in the middle of that jam, knowing, getting it, that was this is the best thing I've ever heard, pretty much. And then it was, it was all downhill from there.
It's a very slippery slope.
Yes, very, very slippery.
Once you get in, it's kind of hard to get out.
Exactly.
So there's this other question that I'm asking. When was your first Phish show?
So just under a year later, this is a really cool story, actually. So for Father's Day in 2012, my mom came to my siblings and I. We were like, we're getting Dad a ticket to this Phish show. They're playing, near Cleveland, like, not too far away. And, it's going to be a surprise at breakfast tomorrow. And so the night before Father's Day, we were all together and there was one ticket we put into an envelope and sealed the envelope. And then the next morning at breakfast, when they opened it, we brought out the envelope and we were all excited. We were like, you're going, whatever. And then he opens the envelope and there are 2 tickets inside. and he was like, surprise, you're coming with me. And I like freaked. I was like, this is the best day ever. Like, going to see Phish, like amazing. Because I didn't think like, I didn't think I was going. I was like, my dad's going, Father's Day gift, amazing. And so we went, the 2 of us, we had amazing seats. We were like dead center, a few rows back from the pit at Blossom Music Center, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous venue. And this was, I walked out of that show being like, that was the best 3 hours of my life. Like that, it was life-changing experience getting to see them live. And that was also a show where they brought like 10 people up on stage during Meat Stick to do the Meat Stick dance. And also there was like a crazy tweezer in the second set with like a bunch of like Meat Stick and Under Pressure teases and Ice Ice Baby and all sorts of nonsense. So it was a crazy show, but that's, that was my first Phish show and it was amazing.
It's like the same thing with me. If
Yeah.
Phish Phry, we did my birthday in July and they were playing on July 11th and 12th. And I got the ticket and I didn't know I was gonna get it. And also and me and my dad were going, so it was just super surprised.
It's a very cool
And
situation.
Very few people get an Iculus at their first show.
Right.
And so I'm incredibly jealous of both of you that, you go to your show, you get that crazy encore and you get an Iculus. They never play that. Like that's amazing.
It was a pretty wild overall experience with our first show. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they're playing an hour away, which is practically at home.
Mm-hmm.
We Trey before, just shake his hand in the parking lot. Like, and then Iculus, they did Alumni Blues, which they don't play super often from what I've seen. So
100%, yeah.
It was a pretty awesome first experience.
Mm-hmm.
So did that show really just kind of send you over the edge? Like,
I was already over the edge.
Gotcha.
I was already like fully into Phish. That was just like, getting the first live experience. Obviously, you guys know as well. It's so key to really understanding the band and why people want to go to 300 shows. It's experiencing it live and feeling that sense of community with everybody at the show and, the energy. And I assume you guys experienced it too. When you're a young kid at a show, everyone's coming up and being like Oliver, were people being like, you have the coolest dad ever. Like,
like, a lot of people there were nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like most of them that we met, like there's this guy beside me. He was like so nice. I think his name was Colby.
I think so.
Yeah, but he was really nice.
And he was like cluing you in on what songs were being played.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to.
That's awesome. Yeah, everyone's just like, excited to be there and excited for you, especially, being like, it's my first show, and everyone's like, like.
I said first show, and I was like right there where everybody.
Oh, nice.
Everybody was like, "Where'd you get that?" And so I was like, "I have no idea. It just came."
It was a gift. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was your first show.
Yes, that was my first show.
Favorite Phish show?
So my favorite Phish show that I've seen was October 23rd, 2021 in Chula Vista. This was also, my dad and I did these 3 shows out on the West Coast that weekend. It was my first show since the pandemic, like any concert. And so it was just amazing to be back. The first night was awesome. But that show in Chula Vista, from first note to last, they opened with the first jammed out Fluffheads since 1999, which they've now done like 4 times since. So it's now like, oh, they're jamming Fluffhead again. How exciting. It's not like the shock factor in that moment. I was like, they haven't done this since 7/24/99. Like, oh my God. And it was really, really cool. And then just incredible jams, like the NICU, the Tube, the No Men, the Phry, and then the Piper that just opened into a black hole of death at the end, which was just crazy. But it was just an unbelievable show. The energy was amazing. The weather was great. Anyone who was there will probably tell you it's one of their favorite Phish shows they've ever seen. And that was the first Phish show I saw where people at the show and watching at home were like, that was an incredible show. I'd seen good ones before, but some of them had been, like I had a great time, but people were like a little bit more critical of the set list or jams or whatever. And so that was the first one where it was like everybody in the community was like, Chula Vista. That's the show right there.
That's a good,
yeah. My head would probably be going like 1,000 miles per hour in circles.
Absolutely.
I would.
Oh yeah.
My goodness, like the way that you like they're playing Fluffhead, I would probably be like that the whole show. Like because after we met Trey, I was still like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I always say that if I ever meet Trey, I might like pass out. Like
that's what I was about to like. I was afraid of. Like I thought I was gonna cry or like something like that. Just be so embarrassed. And I was literally talking to my dad on the ride there. I said, "What if we get to meet one of the band members?"
Oh man,
where we pull up.
Yep,
he's right there.
Yeah,
so I've made a note so we can go back and check out that 10/23/21 show.
Do it. If you haven't listened to a lot of Fall 2021, you got to listen to Fall 2021. That is some of the best Phish ever. They were absolutely on fire that tour, jamming out basically every song that they could. Like there are some times where you'll get songs that get jammed out that don't normally, and on that tour it just seemed that a jam could come in any spot, whether it was the first song of the show or the last song. They're one of the shows opens with a 25-minute Down with Disease, and one of the shows, the encore, is a 19-minute Carini.
Wow.
It's everything was on the table, everything was in play, anything could happen any night. It was what a time to be alive.
Kind of sounds like how a lot of people were talking about this summer with their summer tour.
They've really kind of taken that approach to the set list since 2021. Like songs that don't normally jam are gonna jam. Like that's why, Sample in a Jar was a 5-minute rock song for 25 years, and then now it's a jam vehicle.
Have you ever heard like No Man's Land?
Yes, I have. No Man in No Man's Land. Yeah.
Have you heard it live?
Yes, I have a few times. There was the one 10/27/18, fall 2018, also highly recommend. But the 10/27/18 No Men in No Man's Land, that was the first 20-minute jam I ever saw live. I was at that show that was the first show that I did where it was just me, my mom, and my dad. I had done 2 shows with my siblings as well, but that one was just like me and both my parents. And I remember that, first 20-minute jam I'd ever seen live, and it was crazy. They went way out into space, and it ends with what like the last few minutes are what I like to call a reggae death march.
Oh.
And you have to hear it to really understand what that means, but it's an excellent jam.
I would love to hear No Man's Land. No Man's Land.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to hear it live.
Yeah.
I've heard they played it a few times and they've done really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, chasing songs, and there's for a while you're always gonna have one that's like gets played a lot, but you inexplicably haven't seen. Like I'm at 30-something shows, I think like 31 shows now after this summer, and I still haven't seen Runaway Jim.
Oh wow.
Oh no, just kidding. I lied. I saw it at Dick's. But my first Runaway Jim was at Dick's,
Gotcha.
which was crazy after waiting for so long and being like, why haven't I seen it yet? It took me 10 shows to get Wolfman's, like, all these songs that you think they play every few shows, and then it's weird. Like it's like they just don't play it at the shows that I go to.
It's sort of all their newish and songs that they usually play a lot, other than like Fluffhead and all that. But it's usually those, and you kind of want to get like old songs because like that sort of reminds you of your childhood.
Yeah, I get that.
Right.
So I bet that's probably why you need to probably like why you want to go like hear Fluffhead and stuff.
And that
Mhm.
to me, I mean, we've been to one I've been to two, but we've been to
Wait,
we've all-
oh yeah.
yeah, because I went on the 12. But it seems like that's kind of along with the community and the love of the music and love of the band, like that's part of the fun too, is chasing songs.
100%.
Like that's just part of it. Like, man, maybe tonight they're gonna play, you know,
Like Phry.
yeah, like
I had a whole list. If you go check
You-
that out, I was
you-
like,
you had a major list of songs you wanted to hear. So what's your
Mm-hmm.
favorite Phish show that you've listened to that you like would have loved to have been there for?
So that one's tough because there are so many from across Phish history. I think though it would have to be like if I have to pick one show that I wish I could have been at, probably 8/17/97 from the Great Went. I think a lot of people who know my tastes in Phish might be surprised that I pick a show from 1997 and not like a fall 2021. But that show, it's 3 sets from the Great Went Festival that they put on in 97, and that second set is absolutely legendary. It's like a 22-minute Down with Disease or something. Then there's what they were doing at the time. They had like a big art installation tower near the stage. And they like people were painting it and doing stuff, and then they burnt it down at the end of the festival. But there's really cool footage of that online. But basically, after this Down with Disease, Page and Fishman went over to paint the art tower while Mike and Trey just kind of like jammed just with each other for a few minutes. Then they played absolutely legendary version of Bathtub Gin. If you haven't heard the Went Gin, you need to listen to the Went Gin. It's like the best Bliss jam ever. And then Uncle Pen, and then 2001, which is also one of the best versions of that song ever, where at the beginning, Mike and Trey go and paint the art sculpture while Page and Fishman are just kind of hanging out in the 2001 groove before they come back. And I love the summer 97 sound. And I not having been alive at the time, I would love to have the opportunity to experience that live.
Sure. Yeah.
That would have been cool.
From different things I've read and I've listened to, like the Great Went, and some of those festivals they've done were just like, you had to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know that we could make it to Delaware next year, but the idea of going to a Phish festival is like dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I will like move mountains to get myself there. I've never been to a Phish festival, and I've been a fan for so much of my life, and like it's a bucket list thing, and they haven't done one since 2015, and obviously Curveball doesn't count. But who knows how long it'll be before the next one after this, and so I will be there. I know with absolute certainty that I will be there.
Oh, some way.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
And also, if wait, I forgot. Wait, I've never been to a festival, but do they play songs there?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, but it's the cool thing about a festival is that this one is 4 days and it's only Phish.
Oh.
A lot of every other music festival, there are other bands on the bill, and it's just Phish, and they do a secret set of just jamming of some kind at like 2:00 in the morning on one of the nights, and so I'm excited to see what it is next year.
It seems like someone shared a video, and it was just like kind of a real stripped down set during the day that I saw the other day, and I don't remember where it was from.
Would it have been the Festival 8 acoustic set from 09?
I think so. I think it was acoustic.
Yeah, if I went to a festival and I listened and I had like Slow Llama.
Oh yeah.
I would.
Oh yeah.
Like he just introduced it to me like a couple weeks ago. Whenever I done with my allergy shots, and he was like, "I got a song for you," and I was like, "What's it called?" And he said, "Slow Llama," and he said, "I've heard it from other people," and so he just played it, and it was like funky.
Oh yeah,
it was so cool. That's
a fun one.
Yeah.
So now I want to kind of get your scholarly wisdom on us as new Phish fans. What do you think would be a great studio album for a new fan to start with? We usually ask each other this, like ask Oliver, would you give this to one of your friends, or could I give it to one of my friends, that kind of thing. What's a great studio album you think someone should start with?
So the first thing that I really listened to before I was listening to a lot of the live Phish stuff was A Picture of Nectar. Was what kind of got me a couple of tracks from that. But I think it really depends on the person's tastes, because it's really once somebody gets Phish, they're going to be very receptive to everything. And that could happen the first time they listen to a song, or, 10 years after someone's been playing Phish for them. But it's about finding the right starting point. So I think it depends on the person's tastes. Like, if you think they're going to like the kind of weirdness of the early 90s albums, then throw them that. If they need to be eased in a little bit more, give them like Sigma Oasis or Joy or Fuego, one of the more recent albums that probably has a, more, normal person friendly sound to it.
So I totally get that, because my first introduction was Billy Breathes.
Yeah. Great starting point.
I loved it from the jump, but I grew up with my dad. We listened to all kinds of music, all different genres, all different times, things like that. So like, I wasn't jarred by it, which I don't think Billy Breathes is like a jarring album, like maybe like a riff with all the different styles and things like that. But so I felt pretty at home inside of Billy Breathes. But I do agree that you have to kind of know your friend, know what someone is comfortable with as musical taste. So
absolutely.
What's a great live album? So someone's already got in, they've already got in with a studio album, and you're baby stepping them in. What's a good starter live album?
Well, that's what a live one is for.
Yeah.
Classic choice. Obviously it's not going to give you an indication of what they sound like now, but it's a great introduction to kind of, the compositions. It's got Yem, it's got Stash, and you get some jamming on there. The weird 1994 jamming, however. But that's kind of why they created a live one back in the mid 90s. It was to get people into the live catalog. Other than that, I'd say something like 11/17/97 is a great starting point. If they're already familiar with Phish, like just throw them into the deep end with that show. 9/14/99 is another one that is out on streaming service as well. Gorge 98 is fantastic. But I'm curious, if I may ask you guys a question. I'm curious for each of you, what was it, studio or live? What was it? What song or jam or whatever that made you get Phish?
Maybe for me, it'd probably be Chalk Dust Torture
Nice. Studio or live?
studio. I'm more of a studio person.
Yeah.
Got it. Nice.
But I'd like to hear their live jams.
Well,
Mhm.
Chalk Dust.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to chalk dust at your first show.
If I had to pick a
Good
second,
chalk dust.
the Mama Dance.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Great song.
That's a good one. I think for me, it's a really good question. I think, because if I'm going to go back to think like Billy Breeds, like that album, I think it was, I think it was Phry. Just
Mhm.
right off the bat, just,
Yeah.
okay, I like this. It was like, it's kind of like when you get a first sip of water, and you're thirsty, it's kind of like, oh, that's good. Now I need to drink more of it. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like just a little, okay, wet my whistle a little bit, and now we'll dig in deeper. Oliver, as the last question for Mr. Storm, I want you to ask him.
What would you tell a new Phish fan?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, if you're already a fan, you're into the band, absorb as much as possible about them. Take every recommendation from everybody. Whether you can listen to the hundreds of hours of music you're going to be recommended or not, take all the recommendations, listen to stuff from, across their catalog, meet people in the community because as you said, at your first show, like everyone's so nice, right? Like everyone, the sense of shared experience and joy that you get in the Phish community is like unlike anywhere else. Everyone is there having a great time, appreciating the music that we're getting from them. And see a show every chance you get. There's never such thing as I'm too tired or I'll see them next time. Like if you have the opportunity, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, if they're literally, if they're like a few hours away.
Oh yeah, you go.
No way, that you can't go.
Yeah.
It's they'll get in the gym and if you're sitting at home and you miss it because you said you were too tired, you'd probably be watching them on TV and you'd be like,
exactly, should have been there. And also, as a rule, if you can go to a show and you decide not to, they're going to play all your favorite songs and all the songs that you're chasing. That's just how it works.
Yeah, like my dad, he went on the 12th. And
yeah.
My favorite song is Phry, and guess what they play?
They play
Phry. There you go.
Yep.
I was just too tired from the first night.
Oh, yeah.
It lasted from 11:30.
It was a late night.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being our first guest on Phish Phry Podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule with all your other podcasts and things you have going on. But we really appreciate it, and we will take all of your advice to heart and
come surrender to the flow with us.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to listen, rate, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We'd also love to connect with you on social media. We are everywhere at Phish Phry Pod, all PHs. For even more Phish Phry podcasts, join our Patreon. For $5 a month, you get extra content, a chance to vote on what shows we can record next, and more. So check it out at patreon.com/Phish Phry Pod. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of our podcast journey. And remember to come surrender to the flow with us.